Okay, as always, that was our officially licensed theme song by Colin Gow. Colin, good friend of the podcast, owner of Colin's Coffee, who actually, I should give him a shout out, just did his annual fundraiser for the Heart to Heart Food Pantry over Thanksgiving, and I think he raised over $1,000 for the food pantry on
Very
Thanksgiving
nice.
Day. Yeah, so shout out to Colin. I am Steve Shoney. I'm the city manager for the city of Upper Arlington. I am here with my co-host, at least for the remainder of the month.
Spirit of giving. This is Darren Schulman. I'm the city attorney.
I just want to remind Darren that his renewal of his co-host status is coming up. He has to book another guest sometime in the coming months.
For the first 2 years of the podcast.
So we have a very special guest today.
People are excited about this guest.
When we walked into the building with this guest, people said, "Oh, it must be a big day today." That was actually a quote from someone sitting outside. Normally, we have Upper Arlington residents, but this gentleman is a neighbor, both professionally and personally. He also happens to be one of my many former bosses, but my most recent former boss. We have with us today Mayor Andrew J. Ginther from the city of Columbus. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Thanks for coming on. Now, I know you've listened to portions of podcasts because we've had some of your friends on, most famously the incomparable Greg Davies. But I'm going to assume that you're not like an every episode listener, so I'll review for you.
Because if he was, he would not have agreed to come on.
No,
so that's the
he
proof.
would not have agreed. So at the beginning of every podcast, we do something we call Start, Bench, Cut. So we're going to give you three things. Treat it as though you would a sports player. One of them is your starter. One of them you have on your bench. One of them you can never use again. So we asked you a couple of prep questions, guilty as pleasure, musical genre, that sort of stuff. So Darren has a start, bench, cut for you based on your musical genre. Do you remember what that was?
No.
90s rap.
Okay.
So hopefully I don't dig too deep here because I want to stump you on your favorite genre. I have two, if you'll indulge me, Steve.
Yeah.
This is like my wheelhouse of music. So I got this list from ranker.com.
Okay.
So who knows how legit it is, but I pulled out the best rap songs from the 90s ranked. So it's not Darren's opinion, although it does.
Does it conform?
Close. Yes.
Okay.
So here's the three songs. California Love by Tupac
Start.
and Dr. Dre. You're already done. It was number one. Hypnotized by Notorious B.I.G.
Ooh.
And Gangsta's Paradise by Coolio.
I'd cut Gangster's Paradise. And that's tough. Notorious or Tupac?
And that, kind of is a
You
little
can't-
rivalry there.
Yeah, it's one or the other, right? You can't choose both. Tupac starts. Biggie is on the bench.
That'd probably be my ranking
Okay.
too. Steve, now do you have an opinion before we go on, Steve? Because I think that's a solid choice.
No,
And I'm
I
glad
mean,
you knew the songs because I didn't want to have to start singing them.
There is no wrong answer on that, and that's the kind of one where if you give the wrong answer, somebody could, it could get violent pretty quickly.
There's no Midwest coast, so we're
No.
All right, so I went from there. Now I went down to sort of more kind of a one-hit wonders kind of thing, party anthems you might hear at a stadium. So these are the bottom of the list from Ranker, but they're still kind of all good.
If I don't know them, do you have to sing them?
Yes,
Yes,
he
but
does.
you will know these. Maybe not.
By the way, this is our city attorney. This is what I deal with on a regular
yeah,
basis.
I can. I have them all in my head. So first one is "Jump Around" by House of Pain, and
That's on the bottom?
It was number 17 out of 4.
Okay. All right.
And then "You Can't Touch This" by MC Hammer. That was number 31. And "Jump" by Crisscross, which was number 34. You might hear them all at like a football game or a basketball game. So one of them you can have played. One of them maybe once a season.
Jump
and one's
Around
gone.
definitely starts. And I think You Can't Touch This is on the bench, but ready to come in at any moment and get a party started. Crisscross, I think definitely. Hate to cut them, but Third tier.
I can't disagree. And
I'm going to make you wear your sweater vest backwards for the rest of the thing, just because you offended Crisscross.
So yes, wearing your clothes backwards, Steve. Nice pickup
Yeah,
there.
thank you.
I will say those are my go-to karaoke songs as well. If I can get a little jump around and you can't touch this, I can do that for you. So I agree with your ranking. Steve, do you have any faults with that except for your crisscross clothing choice?
No. I actually have one other. Do you remember the one we did for Kathy Strauss? Do you remember what the songs are we get? Because I want to, Kathy.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Were they rap music?
It was Eminem. Remember?
Oh yeah, it was. Stan was one of them, and then
Lose Yourself.
Lose Yourself, and the other one was Without Me.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
So of those
But
three,
he's not really 90s. Well, he's the end of 90s, early 2000s.
Is that too late?
But honestly, if you like these songs, you probably know some Eminem. Are we stumping you here, or can you ride with this one?
yeah, I think Lose Yourself. What were the other two?
Without Me and Stan. Stan, definitely not a party anthem.
No, I'd probably cut that. Without Me, number two. Probably my favorite though is the one he did with Rihanna.
Oh yeah,
That's
Love the Way You Lie.
That is an incredible song.
That is a good
an
song.
incredible song.
Can I just say I have a little bit of a surreal thing? Like I'm talking to the mayor of the city of Columbus, talking about like the rap music I like listening to. Like, never would I have thought this would ever happen in my life.
And
So
I'm
thank
doing
you.
my part to exposing my 15-year-old to this music. And she's probably 50-50, which is probably on par for a 15-year-old. She rolls her eyes and turns it off or changes, the music going. And about half, she digs California Love. She does.
I mean,
That's a banger.
yeah.
So when my kids were in this phase, I remember this is when they were both playing AAU basketball, and we'd play over off of kind of Cleveland and Ennis kind of area over at New Covenant, and we'd be driving back and forth. And I had a rule in the car that if there was more than like 2 lines of auto tune, the song was going. I would let them have. I didn't listen to what the lyrics were, so I didn't have that rule, but I had a hard auto-tune rule, and that's where they would roll their eyes at me.
I'm also glad we're having this very serious conversation because at home all I get to talk about is K-pop Demon Hunters.
Well, you've moved on from Paw Patrol.
Yes, Paw Patrol gone. Now it's K-pop Demon Hunters. I'm not sure which is worse, actually.
I don't know. Holly and I were sitting around the house earlier this week, and we were like, should we watch the K-pop Demon Hunters movie? Because everybody's talking about it. Should we watch the K-pop Demon Hunters movie?
You should read my legal analysis
I
review
read
of
your
it
legal
and then
analysis.
watch the movie.
He actually, believe it or not, and it's actually pretty good. I will give you a compliment. Darren, for some law, actually not, I was going to say some obscure law journal, but it wasn't completely obscure.
It's the law journal for city attorneys, basically.
Did a piece on.
Sounds very exciting.
It was
Generally not, but
it was K-pop Demon Hunters and an analysis of them as it relates to, was it fraud or libel?
fraud by omission.
Yeah, fraud by omission. So there we go.
I'm a nerd, so yeah.
So
You're
for
like,
the-
why did I come on this?
I'm
show?
married to a lawyer. So.
So for those of you who tuned in to help you go to sleep, I think we've accomplished it. And sleep well.
We can sing "Gangsta's Paradise" for you. Maybe we'll convince him to put it back in his starting list.
So
Not up against that competition.
That's tough.
no. So to turn to more serious issues, I think I have your title right. It's mayor for the city of Columbus.
Not at home, but
Not at home. And you've been doing that now for what, 8 years? 7 years?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of my third term, so 10.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
So this is
Took
a really
office in
stupid question.
16
Are there
and-
term limits for the mayor of Columbus?
Not except for my wife, my daughter, and obviously the people of Columbus. But,
Familial term limits, yeah.
No term limits by charter or by law.
Yeah. So
But at any point, Shannon and Clara could decide that this is the final term.
because wow, 10 years. So that
Yeah.
means, so I started my career at the city of Columbus with Coleman as his director, and I think I did that for Coleman for about 2.5 years, and then you came in, and I had the honor of working with you for, that must have been 4.5 years, 3.5 years. And so it's so funny to think that it's been 10 years, and I remember your daughter was young when you started. How has it been for her going through this process of watching you be mayor? I mean, has that made her, as you see her now, because you said she's what, 15 or 16?
50.
Does that make
15 going on 40.
Yeah. Does that
Everybody
make,
thinks my gray hair is from being mayor. It's actually being the father of a 15-year-old girl.
Yes, I can. 15-year-olds, I get 15-year-old girl. We'll go offline and you can scare Darren because he's got
Got a 6-year-old.
he's got a 6-year-old.
That's my gray in my beard. So,
When she looks at that, does her watching you make her want to go toward public service, or is she just like, yeah, no, that's Dad's thing. I'm going to find something different.
I'm working on her.
Okay.
I think if she had to make a decision today, as most 15-year-olds, it'd be different tomorrow
Yeah.
than it was today. I think she still really gravitates towards teaching. She likes working with younger kids and enjoys that. She gets in on us. There's a good part of my family. My mom was a social worker. My niece and younger sister work in childcare. So she gets in on us from the women in our family. But I'm getting the sense that she might have a little of the public service bug in her. As I like to tease my wife, I want to get Clara into the family business. But Shannon's pretty skeptical. But Clara definitely, I think, understands better today all the incredible benefits and feeling of giving back through public service than maybe she did 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I have a more serious related question. You're on TV all the time. You're in the news. You know, your name's on all the stuff. Does your daughter think you're cool? Or is like, oh, that's my dad again on TV.
She's 15. I am never cool.
Because like I think it'd be pretty cool to like, that's the mayor, that's my dad. But I'm guessing I'm 15.
I am
You're
never
not cool.
I might have been cool 5 or 8 years ago, but not today. You know, I oftentimes say that I feel like I should have done PSAs or, you know, told the people of Columbus that all of a sudden the person that they had elected mayor 3 times didn't know anything, didn't understand, and was clueless. And that all happened within about the last year or 2 of my daughter's life. So, you know.
Opposition ads, yeah.
So it'll be interesting. So I do remember one of the funniest things of my time in this job is every year in the spring they do government day for, I think it's freshmen at the high school. Mm. And you know, so city council members go in and they meet with the freshman government classes, and I went on one of them, and I was there in front of it was when my son was a freshman, my younger son was a freshman, and Nate was just horrified the whole time, right? Just sitting there like, you know, head in his hands, until the council member I was with, Brendan King, says, okay, who knows what it takes to be, what the qualifications are to be a city council member? And they go through, and it's, well, you have to be a resident of UA, you have to be a U.S. citizen, and you have to be 18. And I see Nate look up, and I see him do the math in his head, and then sit back and just smile. Because you could see that he was like, oh, wait, I could run for city council when I'm 18 and be my dad's boss. That would be awesome. So I think for everybody here, everybody who listens to that's in the city of Columbus, I think, you know, I'm seeing Ginther for council in 3 or 4 years. I think that could be the insurgent candidacy that would get a ton of votes. I think that one would be awesome. I think that's where you encourage that to go.
Yeah, she's having fun. You know, it's never easy being as you know with your boys and with her. I think it may be tougher to grow up as the daughter of the mayor than the son of the mayor. And I don't think it's really different in a small town or a big city. Yeah. In some respects, in a small town or a smaller community, you never really get away from it. In a bigger city, it's just you're just much better known or identifiable to the average person in the public. But it's not easy. She's done really, really well, and you know, Shannon and I have tried to keep her as grounded as possible. and we're blessed with a lot of resources and support and family that help us all stay grounded. They have a great way of doing course correction with me when they feel like
They're keeping you grounded.
That's right. That's right.
So
yeah, I'm still in charge of trash and laundry at 4129 Rowan Court, and I may have the title of mayor other places, but I have a variety of titles at our house, which keeps me.
Some of them are not probably allowed to be on air.
It's not suitable for a family channel.
Yeah.
Do people around Columbus always recognize you? I know some people are engaged in political stuff. Some people don't really know. Like, do people say, "Hey, that's the mayor," or is it like, "Oh, you can go shopping"?
Coleman told me early on, and by Coleman I mean former Mayor Coleman, who served as mayor for 16 years. He said to me early on that two people everybody in Columbus recognize are the OSU football coach and the mayor. And so Coach Day never gets a break probably, nor does his family or kids. But I'd say that certainly has become more true the longer I've been in the role. I still can get away with being incognito if I don't shave, if I wear a ball cap, and I'm not in uniform, right? If I don't have a blazer or suit on. And I used to be able to get away with it at Lakeside. So our family is totally head over heels in love with Lakeside, and we've gone for years and years. Turns out there are more and more people from Upper Arlington and from Clintonville and from around Columbus that go to Lakeside too.
So they recognize you.
So now, my uniform at Lakeside is definitely ball cap. I don't even bother taking the razor, and flip-flops to try to duck into patio donuts or sneak in for ice cream under the radar.
Well, as a good friend with a gentleman who served as executive director or president or whatever it is up at Lakeside, I can tell you, being mayor of Kip Greenhill's, a former mayor here and council member,
Kip
dear
up there
friend,
all the time.
yeah,
Great guy.
So he served as the head of that. I can tell you, being mayor of Columbus is easier than it would be being mayor of Lakeside.
I cannot imagine being the mayor of Lakeside.
So 10 years in, what is the thing that you, what's the little weird thing about being mayor that you love? And I'll give you kind of an example of what made me think of this. When I was development director, believe it or not, my favorite thing to deal with was code enforcement. Because as you know, that was when I had developed, because it was it was really hands-on. It was really kind of grounded in the middle of everything. And, some of the things that we did there and kind of reshaping how we did code enforcement are some of the things that I look back and I'm still the most proud of. And when I run into those folks, it's like seeing an old family. What's the thing that people would be surprised that you're like, I really love leaning into this issue?
Well, I think your example of code is a good one because so many of the things we work on take, years of effort, investment, planning. I mean, we're rewriting the zoning code right now for the first time in 70 years. This is going to take 4 or 5 years and 3 iterations and chapters. And it will be one of the most consequential things that we've accomplished during my time. I'm not sure that's what gets me up every morning thinking, I'm making a big, difference in people's lives. Now, 50, 75, 100 years from now, I think it will be. And certainly over the next 10 or 20 years when we're trying to get so many more housing units as we grow. I would say probably things like code enforcement or helping people. I mean, one of the reasons I love local government so much, I respect what people do at the federal level and the state level. It's just not for me. Local government is because I feel like you can see, touch, and feel the things that matter to people that you've had an impact with. So Hilltop Early Learning Center, and you remember this from your time. Early learning, expanding access to high quality early learning was something really important to me, to my family. It's something that my mother ingrained in us at a pretty early age. And the Hilltop in particular had the lowest number of 4-year-olds enrolled in high quality early learning anywhere in the city. So we went big, and in partnership with the Hilltop Preschool and leaders like Mike Curtin and Jane Leach and other people put in plan this place. And we now have quadrupled the number of kids in high quality early learning, on the Hilltop, through the Hilltop Early Childhood Center there, by the Boys and Girls Club and by Highland Elementary School. So I guess that's one way of seeing a direct connection to something that didn't happen quickly. It took a number of years. There was a pandemic in there, all those types of things. A mass exodus from teachers and educators in early learning, a number of closures of centers around the community. But that's kind of one of those great things that we all have been able to work on together.
So I'm guessing a lot of those sort of satisfaction-inducing projects are hyper-local like that. But Columbus is so big. So how do you, I don't know how do you know the city? That's kind of a dumb question. But, it's so big. How do you maintain connections with all the different neighborhoods and all the different kind of needs from such a big area?
Well, you try to spend as much time as possible outside of City Hall, right? And I've really tried not just to spend time in the city. One of the first things I did as mayor is go around and visit each of the city managers or mayors in their city halls around Franklin County. And we even got some outside of Franklin County. And it made a huge difference because there are a lot of mayors and city managers that had never had the mayor of Columbus come to their city hall to meet with them to talk about things. And I think that's helped to kind of breathe life into Steve's very involved with COMAR, Central Ohio Mayor City Managers Association, and other regional efforts because we're purposeful and intentional about that. But I think a good part of it is that, and then having key people in roles like development, like neighborhoods, like recreation and parks, certainly formerly utilities, now power and water, that are out there talking with folks, and having your team know that collaboration and partnership are not things to check the box on. They're the lens that I want them to go about doing their work, and that's hopefully, I think making an impact. And there were a couple of neighborhoods in particular. We mentioned the Hilltop, but Linden and Eastland are three places that we've really focused on having the community develop a neighborhood plan. So it's their plan driven by them, that guides our work and where we get other folks to invest. And that's another way to stay close. Those are pretty intensive plans that are put together in partnership with the Neighborhood Design Center and our department and neighborhoods, so that people really feel like those plans, they see themselves and their futures as a way to rally the city and the private sector around it. So that's been another way to try to stay connected.
Yeah. To our listeners, if you hear slight little banging in the background, we are at the Bob Crane Community Center, and
that's usually just your hand hitting the table.
It's usually just my hand, but that sound is volleyballs banging off the gym floor behind us, because the Columbus Fury started their training camp, and they're running their training camp and their practices out of the Bob this year. You've been a big advocate for women's sports and trying to make Columbus known as a hub for women's competition and that burgeoning industry. Why? What made you see that as kind of the thing?
Foremost, I'm a girl dad.
Yeah.
And raised by a very strong woman, married to a very strong woman who launched the Columbus Women's Commission, has been very focused on pay and gender equity. So, and this just makes sense for Columbus, right? I mean, we don't have a domed stadium that can host the college football playoff or the men's Final Four. This is our niche. First of all, this is what I believe in, I'm passionate about. But it's also perfect for us to kind of own and drive, being the nation's capital for girls and women's sports. And to your point, Steve, we've already hosted the NCAA Women's Final Four in both basketball and volleyball. They're coming back in 2027. I think that's the first time that the Final Four for basketball and volleyball have come back to the same city within, I think, an 8-year period of time.
If I remember, they sold out.
Absolutely, anywhere in the country. And the Columbus Fury right now is the only professional women's team in the state of Ohio. Soon there will be a WNBA team back in Cleveland. They had one for a period of time before it went away. But right now the Fury is the only professional women's sports team in Ohio. And so I have been all in for them. I believe passionately that this community should be as committed to the Fury, and I'm hoping that we land an NWSL team. I think it'd be the perfect complement to our crew. And I believe that the WNBA belongs in Columbus. I know that may be a little bit further off based on the expansion announcement.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Is that like I mean, you're probably more in the know than just me reading the sports pages, but is that like a realistic potential thing?
I think we have a great chance at an expansion team in the NWSL. WNBA might be a little further off. There's only one community that has a WNBA team that doesn't have an NBA team, and that's Connecticut. And
they love UConn.
You might know a little bit about UConn women's basketball and the dynasty that Gino's built there, and the following that they have from all over the country. So, but I do believe the WNBA belongs in Columbus, and that we, by doing, supporting the Fury, going all in with supporting them, being able to attract, hopefully in the next couple of years, an NWSL team, expansion team here, that will set ourselves up very well for the WNBA and other opportunities, to follow up on hosting the women's volleyball and basketball championships again in 27. And this isn't just about hosting events in professional sports. It's about the number of girls that quit playing sports at the end of the 8th grade before high school is double that of boys. So what can we do to get girls competing in high school? And then the other thing is, we want the best and the brightest women competing in sports. We have over 100,000 students in the region in undergraduate school during the course of the year. It's not just Ohio State and Columbus State. It's Denison, it's Ohio Wesleyan, it's Capital, it's Franklin. It's all, how do we get those women to come compete in Columbus and then stay in Columbus? Because all the stats with higher ed leadership, nonprofit leadership, corporate leadership, the amount of women in C-suites that have competed in team sports of whatever type is significantly higher than otherwise. And we know that that's critically important to the future of the community.
That's awesome.
Well, Columbus is always ranked very highly as a sports town, like on the minor league rankings or just everything with all the different things we already have. So it doesn't surprise me.
And it's
that's
built into, our muscle memory. And I just think it's high time that this community invest in girls and women the way we have our beloved Blue Jackets in saving the crew.
Sorry, I'm twitching a little bit when you said saving the crew, because that was the last thing I worked on before leaving and coming over here. It was getting that.
It's a very simple thing.
It was
very easy.
Didn't you just
I
left
left it all in absolutely perfect condition. So there was no more work for Mike Stevens to do after I left. I'm sure that's what the case was. Mike Stevens is the guy who took my spot at City of Columbus when I left. So, so when you look at the future and you look at the region, we are a region that will grow. I almost want to say in spite of ourselves, but that I don't like that phrase, and it's not a foregone conclusion, but the probability is that we will grow, and the things that we would have to do as a region and as a community to stop that are, I think, to many people, myself included, not palatable. So as you look at it as the mayor of 225, 226 square miles, whatever you guys are up to now, of that region, what does that say to you that the region needs to think about to make sure that we avoid the challenges that, the Austins, the Nashvilles, those kinds of places have faced as they've gone through it? I know this is something you think about a ton, and I'd like to kind of hear from your perspective how you think regional people need to be thinking about, what is the future and how do we get ready for it?
Monorail.
What's that?
Monorail. Yeah, that's the solution, right? Sorry.
It's all, safety, housing, transit. I mean, and, the best communities, I would argue, in the country, and I would argue around the world, are ones acting regionally, right? That growth is not a subject of debate or discussion. It's happening. It is going to happen. And so a wise woman once told me, people don't fear change, they fear loss. And so I think our job as a region is to help people embrace this growth based on our values. How do we make sure that Central Ohio remains a great place to work and to raise a family, and a place that's safe, and a place that is dynamic and inclusive? And it's not easy, because that means folks are going to have to change. And there are places around our region that have been the same for a long time and pride themselves on not changing much. And so, but we can't grow the way we're going to grow unless everybody does their fair share. So I'm excited about, the Link Us issue passing overwhelmingly with the voters last year. We just passed, as a city, the largest investment in housing in the city's history through the bond package. Obviously, we talked a little bit about Zone N, the biggest zoning code update as a city in 70 years. Think about Columbus or Arlington, wherever, 70 years ago, and think about the fact that that code was guiding how we were one of the fastest growing cities in the country. So that'll be important. And then continue to think about power and water in the future. I mean, we're studying right now whether, for all intents and purposes, our power and water department, formerly Public Utilities, is a regional authority. I think we provide like 85% of the region's water and a good bit of sewer outside the city limits. So, but does that make sense moving forward if we're really going to do this regional effort? And then the Regional Housing Coalition, I was just with the newer president and CEO of the partnership yesterday, Jason Hall, and Jeff Fix, who's the Fairfield County Commissioner, a very pro-growth, pro-housing commissioner from Fairfield County, and we're getting ready to launch the Regional Housing Coalition, which will be a new P3 embedded at the partnership that will take housing on the way they have economic development and workforce development.
P3 is public-private partnership. Hey, I know a little E.
Darren,
Shoney schooled you up on some.
Yeah. Darren's got to flex on some of that terminology. I'll give legal advice here in a minute.
Yeah, you usually give our copyright.
My wife says I practice, law every day without a license. So,
Well, typically on the podcast, Darren says something completely outrageous, and then I have to be the one that steps in and says that is not legal advice to you.
Yes.
Somebody mentions food, and Darren's like, "Can we get free food?" I'm like, "We cannot accept free food." So,
but that's I think the regional approach is what is going to make this community one of the incredible communities that Central Ohio is going to own this 21st century, if we have the courage to make the right choices, tough choices, through that regional lens.
I think that's kind of been shown in the economic development front, where when I started in this field, it was all the cities around here would kind of compete against each other to land stuff, and now it's am I wrong? It's a regional approach, so we're not poaching from Hilliard or Columbus. We're all kind of working together to land stuff that helps the whole region. Is that?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot more communication amongst the cities now that, we're not interested in beating and winning against Grove City or Upper Arlington or Dublin. We're interested in whooping Charlotte and Austin, in Seattle and Denver.
I hope all those cities are listening. We just threw down the gauntlet on you.
Yeah, there's no reason, that whole zero-sum mindset, that scarcity mindset, has not served this region or any other region around the country or the world well.
No, and you don't need to look far there are regions in Ohio that have had that attitude, and it just, I spent 13 years working for the state, and you can see the regions where that has just led to businesses don't want to do, the businesses that have a choice aren't going to deal with that stuff. That they can see it, and they're going to go to the place where things work.
When you think about it, for Ohio, there are 88 counties. 70 counties, the population is declining. 12 of them are treading water even. 6 are growing. 4 of the 6 are here in Central Ohio. I think that speaks to it, where people are going for jobs and opportunity, and where companies are going, where the most talented people are, and where hopefully the government works effectively and collaboratively amongst themselves.
That's great.
So aside from cooperation, which could be an easy answer, what would you say is the Columbus region secret sauce? And I say that not just Columbus, but the suburbs and things like that. What is making us so attractive?
Well, I think one of them is that we have an organized, engaged, and committed business community. Having a Columbus partnership that continues to evolve, as it has been around now for 20, 25, maybe 30 years now. That's really important, because when I talk to mayors of other cities across the country, they say, how did you do that? And how did that get started? And, because a lot of places around the country, a lot of CEOs have their own narrow self-interest, or their company's narrow self. There are very few places around the country do you have a business community that really want to be actively engaged in issues of civic importance and significance, and are willing to kind of check their, own narrow business interests at the door for the greater good. So that's one of the benefits. I think the other thing that is different than a lot of cities around the country is everybody in Central Ohio cheers for Columbus, regardless of where you live. That Columbus's success, folks are excited about it. They want to support it. They want to be engaged, because I do believe that regardless of where you live in the region, folks know that if Columbus is growing and succeeding, that's going to bring benefit to them and their family in some way, shape, or form. That is not the case in a lot of other regions around the country, and it is much more of this, but it's probably more of that scarcity mindset we've talked about, places that are probably managing decline, or wondering when they're going to go back to their glory days of 50, 75, or 100 years ago, which is just different here.
So I've got to add on to that. When people ask me this question, the other thing that I point to is I think Columbus is unique in that it is really welcoming to folks with really good ideas, and very quick to not reward people who don't play well with others. So I was giving a talk to a group from Cincinnati, and that's where I grew up, and I did the standard Cincinnati thing of saying where I went to high school. And they
That
asked,
is a Cincinnati thing.
it is a very
And Cleveland thing.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
my wife's from Cincinnati. I remember the first time being asked where I went to school. I told them Earlham. They,
Yeah,
they
like, what?
looked at me like I was from Mars.
Where did she go to high school?
She graduated from Madeira High School.
Okay. Producer
Producer
Matthew
Matthew,
Madeira. Yeah.
I guess that's why you do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
She dated a boy from the West Side her junior year of high school. And there are family members that still bring it up at family gatherings once in a while,
Well, and I said to that group, I said, I introduced myself as my high school. I said, one of the things up here is nobody does that.
Yeah.
Nobody does that here, because the assumption is that you're from somewhere, and it's about what you're doing, not where you came from.
Yeah. I always say the first question they ask in Cleveland and Cincinnati is where you went to school, and they mean high school, because it's a big part of your identity and who you are. And first question we ask in Columbus, where are you from? Because over half the people who live here now aren't from here. And
Yeah, it's much more welcoming in terms of coming from somewhere else.
I remember the first time I was running for school board, and I lost badly. I really promoted the fact that I was born and raised in Columbus, so in my literature and so forth, CCS graduate, from here, born here, blah, blah, blah. And I remember going to one of my first PTA or community civic meetings and made my pitch. I was 24, and everything was going fine. And then after the meeting, I had 2 parents kind of grab me and say, "What did you mean by this?" Because my guess is you thought that it helped connect you to people who were born and raised here, but we're not. And this did not land well with us. And
That's gotta hurt when they tell you that.
And I didn't major in math, but I know there are more people who vote here that were not born and raised here. And so I quickly figured out that it was fine to talk about being, born and raised in Columbus, being a graduate of Columbus City Schools, but this whole mindset that we're going to look out for our own leaves over half the people out.
Well, it's interesting. That has been a real dynamic shift here in UA, where I think probably 20, 30 years ago, that was the thing. You said, I
Totally agree.
I'm third generation Upper
Yep.
Arlington, and and we've seen a huge shift, and you can see it in our council elections, and I'm trying to think in our upcoming city council. I don't know them well enough to do the math, but you're typically seeing that. I grew up here. If you overplay the hand, it can come back and bite you, and I've seen that happen to folks. So
Luckily, those voters and parents told me that and helped me do some course correction, and I got it. I was more successful 2 years later.
So speaking of courses, I have to ask one thing. I mentioned one of our residents and a very good friend of yours, Mr. Greg Davies, earlier, who has the lower handicap on the golf course. You were Greg.
Definitely Greg. He's been working hard at it, and you have a little bit more time on your hands and a little better mental health when you're no longer the mayor's chief of staff.
Yes.
Your score goes down significantly.
Yeah, fair enough.
Day
Understood.
Steve,
We're relatively even, but he's better.
So
most days.
what is the most outrageous thing you've ever heard him say after he missed a shot?
I can't say that.
It would just be a long bleep. Yeah, okay, good.
Steve, do you golf?
I did. I made the mistake of trying to take it up soon after we brought the boys home, and you just can't do that. And I'm not coordinated. I'm just not. And golf is a sport that relies on coordination, and that's just not me. So we finish every podcast with 2 questions, and these are going to be a little bit odd for you, but you spent enough time here that I'm going to go ahead and ask you these anyway. What do you love about UA, and what would you change?
I think what I love most about Upper Arlington gets exactly to your point, Steve. So I grew up in Columbus, grew up in Clintonville, was very involved and attended Northwest Christian Church there at the corner of North Star and Fishinger, right? Went through youth group there, went to church camp at Camp Christian in Magnetic Springs. So a lot of the kids I grew up with through church and some athletics were kids that grew up in UA. And very much the mindset, here 30 or 40 years ago, was if you're not from here, you don't really belong.
Yeah.
I remember having a police officer one time. I was right after I started learning how to drive, and I noticed that how much smaller the street signs were and how difficult they were to read. And I got lost at one point or another, and I said, trying to find, it was probably going to another youth group member's home or something like that in the wintertime during the evening. And I said this to him. I said, it's so much harder to find your way around Upper Arlington. And this officer, who, was very nice and professional, said, in essence, if you don't know where you're going in UA, you don't really belong here. And that was true. That's kind of how you felt. And I think one of the things I like most about UA is where it's going. It's got a very proud history. It's been an incredibly important part of Central Ohio. But I really like where UA is going in that I think more people feel like they belong here than ever before. One thing that I would continue to change, or that I would change, is continuing to lean in on making sure that housing remains a top priority. And I know it's harder in kind of the more landlocked communities, whether it's Bexley or Grandview or Upper Arlington, but continuing to show up for those conversations and raise your hands and say, this is a place, we want to be part of the solution. And as I tell people on housing, I'm not expecting everybody to do everything. I know there are some communities that would rather, do anything than embrace permanent supportive housing for people coming out of homelessness. Get it, understand it. We'll take the lead there. But I need everybody to do their part, especially if we're going to get to 200,000 units, which is what we need over the next 10 years, just so that we remain accessible and affordable. And so that's a place that I think the people of UA can do a great bit of service to the entire region.
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks for taking the time to come in
bet.
and sit down with us. It was good to see you. It was good to kind of sit down and have a real conversation again. So, and not just in passing, I mean, like, hey, how you doing? And as always, let us know if we can help.
Yeah,
right.
Good to be with you.
Yep,
Thanks so much.
Feel so empty without me.